Yeah, Kent State, again, going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be very similar to what we saw in week one against UTEP in terms of competition. Kent State, early preseason favorite to win the MAC conference this year. So, solid football team all the way around. Although in week one, they did go on the road out to Washington, fall 45-20 to the Huskies. Quarterback Michael Penix Jr. for the Huskies threw for 345 and 4 touchdowns, while Washington racked up 132 yards on the ground at just 3.2 yards per carry. So, pretty good run defense that we saw by the Golden Flashes. Kent State on offense, they did turn it over 3 times, 2 of which came off interceptions by their starting quarterback, Colin Schlee. Guys, just kind of, early thoughts. I'm not going to say that I've watched a ton of Kent State film because I obviously haven't, but you go back, you watch a handful of quarters of this team play. Colin Schlee, the starting quarterback, average arm, somewhat mobile. I call him a poor man's Trevor Knight, just from the limited tape that I've seen of this kid. They like to play with tempo on offense, and they actually spread the carries around to their running back, something you don't see too often in football anymore. And against Washington on Saturday, 4 different Kent State running backs had over 8 carries. So they do a lot of subbing in and out to keep the fresh legs on the field, a lot of tempo. But again, this is going to be an opportunity where watching OU, how they play against this tempo, I really don't think you're going to learn a whole lot because they've been going up against Jeff Levy's offense throughout the last 9 months. So when you look at this team on paper, Kent State really doesn't have anything from a personnel standpoint that should challenge Oklahoma. So if OU takes care of business, they play good, sound, fundamental football. Kent State should be no problem for this group whatsoever.
I've seen a little bit of Kent State. I had Marquez Cooper on my college fantasy football team last year. He's the running back. He's the name to know out of the backfield there, and it was good enough that I drafted him again this year. Now, I didn't start him last week, and I'm not going to start him this week because I just don't think he's going to have that much success. So I'm interested to see if OU can not necessarily repeat the rushing defense performance they had against UTEP, but have something in the same neighborhood. Kent State doesn't have the offensive lineman to play with, even what we think might be mediocre or just average, interior defensive lineman here at OU. So I want to see that. I want to see a little bit more pass rush, like we mentioned. Colin Schlee only got sacked once against Washington, and Washington has some good defensive players. So I didn't make it last long enough to stay up to watch that game. I checked out probably the first quarter, but like you mentioned with Colin Schlee, he's got a little bit of mobility. So that's probably a little bit more than what Gavin Hardison brought from UTEP. So I think it's a little bit bigger of a test for this OU defense. Scales up another step. Can they take down an offense that has had some more success? You've got Dustin Cephas at the receiver position that's pretty solid. You got Marquez Cooper. Those are all MAC type guys, and they do play with a lot of tempo. So that'll be interesting to see effectively, how that changes things for our offense as well.
I'll sound like a broken record in comparison to what we discussed last week. Win the turnover game, keep Gabriel upright. You're going to dominate this game. And if anything less than a 30-something point game, probably a little bit of a disappointment. I don't view these two teams as overly different. And so I think the result should be pretty similar. Let's just hope, we don't have pictures of the empty student section since this is a night game. That'd be the one difference, I think, between
We don't
this
want to touch
last
on
Saturday.
that at all.
I don't know. I get it was really hot.
I mean,
it's hot for everybody.
The only way that the students are going to make it through that is if they completely change their lifestyle and don't drink beforehand, because you're just not going to last. It's way too hot out there.
This is nothing new, though.
Right.
Yeah, it happens at least once a year.
Multiple
just
times
with the heat. People don't act surprised. It gets hot if you drink a lot before the game. Hot water. You're not
that's
gonna
the
last
thing,
very
though,
long
is
out
we've
there.
seen 11 a.m. kicks in late October and November where the student section isn't full and it's not hot.
No.
And so
it's embarrassing.
It's a culture thing. To me, it's not a weather thing. It's a culture thing.
Yeah.
And it just kind of is what it is. And yeah, if something doesn't change of the big names in the SEC, we'll kind of be a laughing stock when it comes to our fan base.
But here's the thing, guys. I really don't know. I can't put my finger quite how you fix something like this because, student ticket prices are dirt cheap. They've got really, really good seat locations. You get 6-7 home games a year. This is a top 5 college football program of all time, and you would think game one of the Brent Venables era, you would think that students would want to, show up, be loud. But guys, I really don't know how you solve it. To me, this fan base, and again, I don't want to paint this broad brush against everybody. I know that there are some students that are diehard fans like we were that were in attendance every single game from start to finish. But I mean, it's people that prioritize, going to frat parties, going to the bars. Let's get all dolled up so that we can go take a picture. That way, everybody knows that we were there on social media. But it is
Yeah.
a absolute joke what the OU students are when it comes to fan attendance and creating a hostile home atmosphere. They
I
don't
think
do their part.
it goes so much beyond the students though, because I remember going to OU games middle school and high school, and I thought it was normal to stand at football games. That's what I thought. And then I remember getting yelled at people behind me sitting down, wanting us to sit down. And so it goes well beyond the students. This is an entire fan base problem, because
That's fair.
I understand being older in age and wanting to sit down and enjoy a football game. That's not what this is. It's not. Norman should be a hostile environment, and it should be people getting on their feet, ready to get loud. And if that means you stand for the entire game, then damn it, stand for the entire game. Like it is a home atmosphere. It has the ability to completely change the outcome of a game if done the right way. We've seen that. It's not that. And I take that with a grain of salt, because I know a lot of people compared us to like the Florida crowd. Okay, well, the Florida game was at night. It was against number 7 to kick off the year. Of course, that stadium is going to be packed the whole time and pretty raucous the whole time. I do think at our best, when things are going right for a big matchup, I think our crowd's pretty good. But if it's not that, this just kind of is what it is. And so the question is as we transition to the SEC, does that naturally change because the schedule is going to improve?
You would hope so, right? I mean,
I don't know.
Adam, you and I were there. OU jumped out to a 21-0 lead 10 minutes into the game. Students left. I mean, I've been in that stadium where students leave at the start of the fourth quarter, leave at halftime. That student section was half empty with about 6 minutes left in the second quarter. Like it's embarrassing.
And we saw it against good teams in 2-possession games in like 2019 against Iowa State. Students were leaving. And it is a cultural thing. I'll be curious to see, does this happen again in mid-October when the weather's amazing outside?
It will.
But yeah,
I don't think you're going to have to wait. You're going to get good weather this Saturday. It's a night game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it definitely is a cultural thing. Like the way I approach the game is totally different than I think the way a lot of students and other fans approach the game. I approach it as I have 6 opportunities to see this team in Norman every year. I'm going to prepare for heat. I'm going to prepare for the worst and expect the worst. And when I get there and it's 95, I'm going to think, this is what I was expecting. I'm prepared for it. I hydrated beforehand. I spent time in the shade. I wasn't acting, totally foolishly. I was prepared for those types of elements to go through that. And it's doable. It's doable. You just have to have the culture and the prioritization to actually make it happen. It makes me sound like an old to say all that, but
well, I mean, don't drink 6 or 8 beers beforehand and go in there in the middle of a 100-degree heat day. Like, what do you expect to happen? And I don't want this to, come across as, we're labeling the entire fan base. I mean, North End Zone, that's about as diehard and ruckus of a part of the fan base as you're going to get. But I mean, I know that it was hot on Saturday, and I know that the medics and, the EMT people were very, very busy taking care of fans all across the stadium. But students specifically, you're 18 to 22 years old. You get 6 of these opportunities a year. It's a top 5 program in America. Brent Venables' first game. Show up, stay the full 60 fucking minutes, and be proud of your team. Create a home atmosphere that is hostile for opponents to want to come in and play or not want to come in and play against. I hate to bring them up, but Texas A&M, I know it's the world's largest cult. That student section is louder than all 85,000 of our fans combined, and we're in for a huge rude awakening once we get to the SEC.
I told you guys before, Fog Allen Fieldhouse with 18,000 people is louder than our football stadium, because there's a culture of that place is a difference maker. Yeah. And I don't know where we've lost that, because we've had our moments.
We're spoiled.
There's lots of fan bases that are spoiled, though.
True. And we see it every Saturday. I can't say that we're eyeing every student section in the country from other programs every Saturday like we do our own. So it's like, it's worse because we know it better type of deal. But you're right. Like, when did it change? Because I remember like back in 08 and everything, and I get everybody remembers the jump around game and all that stuff. But like, I don't think our crowd would do that right now. Is
Is
that
it?
bad? Is that false?
This makes me sound so old, but like, is it social media and like taking that picture and then getting off to the parties? Like,
That's
Possibly.
exactly what it is.
I
I,
feel, I,
I think that's part of it.
I feel like such an old like grandpa saying that, but I don't know. I mean,
Well, and I
How
mean,
much
Adam,
does the in-game stuff have to come into play here?
it's shit. I hate
So
to.
so if we're in a period where the picture and being a part of something at a certain time is the most important thing, then the in-game atmosphere has to change to make that better. It's
we should
better to be in the stadium than to go to the bar.
we should
That's
block all
what.
social
Yes.
media apps inside the stadium.
Well, I think that, again, when you've got Campus Corner just a couple of blocks away, you've got social media, people that want to go in there, take their picture from the student section. Hi, I've got the field in the background. I'm here, mom and dad. Everybody liked my picture. Now I can go over to O'Connell's or Logie's and drink in 72 degrees and watch the game on TV. I don't know if priorities have changed. I mean, obviously, not everybody is a diehard football fan like we are. But Adam, you make a great point. 352 days a year, you get 6 Saturdays where you can go out there and cheer for your team and actually feel like you're a part of something outside of yourself. And it's sad, but guys, it's not like this is anything new. It's been going on for decades.
But has it gotten worse?
Oh,
I think that's the big question.
It's definitely gotten worse. And I think
So-
that the in-game fan experience has a lot to do with that. I tweeted it out during the game. It was, again, the game was out of hand, but you're going into the fourth quarter, and we've got Toby Keith karaoke for the crowd to sing along, getting ready for the fourth quarter. I mean, Adam, case in point, why are Oklahoma City Thunder games so much fun to go to, even if the product on the court is not great? It's because there's always something going on that keeps the fan engaged. It keeps everybody moving, and the basketball is just it's the reason for everybody showing up to the arena. But there's a lot of outside entertainment that makes the fan experience so much more enjoyable than just the basketball.
That's true. You guys know Garrett Ebersol, right? Is that his name?
Yes, it's not a DJ's fault. It's not the music choice or anything like that.
Well, you just knocked Toby Keith karaoke there, but like it was interesting to see.
I think that was a pre-planned segment because they had the graphics and all that.
He's the super fan. He gives a lot of money. But like it was interesting because he created a thread on Twitter on, I think it was Sunday, where people were, he said like, let me know what your requests for songs are. And pretty much every song that people requested, he said, played that one. So it's funny that is something, another complaint that people say is like music is like all these old classic rocks, but like every song that people wanted, he had already played.
Was the Toby Keith thing an attempt to like get a Wisconsin, everybody singing along deal? Was that an attempt to do that?
I mean, it didn't work. You know what was funny about?
Don't use Red Solo Cup to do it though.
Tyler, did you see Toby Keith on the video board when the team was supposed to be running out of the locker room?
Yes,
that was hilarious. If you weren't at the game, and Corbin, maybe you didn't know this, but they played the intro video. Usually, like right after the intro video, the fireworks are going off. The team's running out on the field. Well, that didn't happen. The fireworks went off, and nobody was there running out.
Slight 5-minute delay.
Tyler, we've worked that. How is it possible to be that far off?
Brent Venables must have been going long on his pregame speech because the camera flipped to the hallway back there, and you see Toby Keith, and he's just sitting there looking at his iPhone.
He's on his phone.
He's just looking at it, and it's like super awkward. It's just staying on him for like 20 seconds, and then like 2 minutes later, they flip back to that camera, and the team is walking down the hallway. Now, if they had timed that right and flipped the camera to the team walking down the hallway and had like dramatic music, it would have been
absolutely
epic. Absolutely. Maybe they'll get that right this Saturday, but it was so funny to see Toby Keith there just sitting there.
I just have a hard time, and I say this with a grain of salt because obviously I'm in a city that just won like a world championship. Mm-hmm. But there are very few things more fun than an Avalanche game that when the game's in hand, every single time they play All the Small Things by Blink-182. Very easy song.
Sign me up.
Everybody's singing it because everybody's in a great mood. It's awesome.
How do you get that to happen though? Like, what song do you pick? How do you get people to buy in?
Play one till they start freaking singing. They're gonna sing. Everybody's like majority of people in that stadium have at least had a beer. It may be hot, but anytime that you hear like a classic song, you kind of just want to sing. And so it has to happen organically, and you just have to freaking like find it. And once you find it, you got to do it again and again and again
Mhm.
and again. And so it's going to be trial and error. It could be an entire game of whoever's up there on the mix board playing a song and seeing which one the crowd sings to most. And then all of a sudden you've got a tradition. That may be as simple as it gets.
I think what you need though is you need to do it at the right game at the right time. If you do it against Kent State, it may not catch on. You don't try it again.
If it works at Kent State, it'll work against anybody.
But I think what you need is you need to do it at, like, for example, after Bedlam or in fourth quarter Bedlam, OU's up by 4 touchdowns. You play some song that's like, sealing the nail in the coffin. Everyone sings along. Later on, everyone talks about singing that song in that game against Oklahoma State where you won by 4 touchdowns, and then you do it every game going forward.
But I'll agree with you guys. It is a hard thing to find because you've got the fan base is so different. The demographics are so different. Student section might love one thing, all the small things, Blink 182. 85-year-old Margaret may not like Blink 182 playing. Maybe
I don't even think I know that song.
You just need the majority. And that's all you need.
The majority. Put the words up on the big screen if you have to.
No, don't do that.
Maybe off on the side, like they do the national anthem. Put them up on the side.
I need a dot bouncing on every word.
There you go.
And then in like a clap hand deal,
But we do have to agree that there are some things that have to be done. And again, there's people that are getting paid a lot of money, a lot more money than we are to figure this stuff out. But you got to figure out a way to make the fan engagement so much better.